Speaking of practice, I have a little extra time, right? These guys are going to be able to go out there and get settled into a long run, Kevin. We know that's the name of the game at Darlington.
And rhythm and markers were always what I tried to do here in practice. You have to be in a rhythm. And the difficult part about what they do today is that rhythm for race.
Mike, this qualifying lap, my gosh, does it feel fast. You sail that baby off into turn one, it slides up by the wall. Whoa! And then all the way wide open, all the way through two, and then you get down there with a head of steam getting into three, and you're like, there's no chance I'm going to stop it this time.
Hope is a bad strategy, but you do have to have a little bit of hope that it doesn't hit the wall.
During a long ways in life, Kev.
All right, let's throw it back with Larry McReynolds, our crew chief.
You know, Mike, a race car has so many things you can adjust, but here at Darlington, the best thing you can adjust is 4 sticker Goodyear tires. There's no substitute. The problem, though, for 25 minutes of practice, these teams only have 1 set. Yeah, you'd love to go out there, run a few laps, come in, make an adjustment, go out and run again. That will not work because tire fall off, tire degradation is so huge here. So the plan up and down pit road, run 30, 35, maybe up to 40 laps. And Jamie, the good thing, you run 40 laps, that's a long run for tomorrow's race.
Absolutely. I feel so left out, Larry. You look so good in your throwback shirt. Look at Joey Logano's throwback to mid-70s Cale Yarborough. How much fun is this, Joey, to come back to throwback weekend?
It's so neat. I mean, it's cool to see the cars, but really what I think it's about is being able to pay tribute and honor to the pioneers of our sport, right? The people that have built our sport to what it is today, so we can all enjoy it. And I think that's what it's about, right? Because so quickly, when athletes or drivers retire, they kind of right off into the sunset and unfortunately get forgotten about. But throwback weekends like this is where we're able to pay tribute to the people that built our sport. And none better than Cale Yarborough. I felt like the timing was right after we just came off our 3rd championship. He's a 3-time champion as well. And I felt like the timing was right to be able to drive this car out here. So hopefully we have a good running with it.
Absolutely. As we get ready to go out for the first practice, it's hot, Joey. We're racing here about 5 weeks sooner or earlier than we did last year. It's supposed to hit 90 today and tomorrow. So what are you looking for here in this 25 minutes of practice to figure out about this hot rod?
I'm afraid what I'm looking for, I'm not going to find a grip. It's going to be slipping and sliding out there, and just hope he finds a good balance, right? And maybe you're sliding the fronts and the rears fairly equally and be able to make it last for a long time.
All right, well, Joey Logano coming off his first top 10. You got it done, Joey, last week. Mike.
Cale Yarborough from nearby Timminsville, South Carolina, won 3 championships in a row from 75 to 77. This is Junior Johnson's Holly Farms Chevrolet Laguna, and that is the color scheme that Joey is throwing back to this weekend when Cale won 3 titles in a row.
Look how fast that car's going. My gosh, those cars are so cool. That aero was cool. Those drivers were cool. Everything about it. Love this weekend. Love these paint schemes. I already have a favorite, guys.
Me too.
Which one's yours?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
It's a different day. We said the track changes with every lap.
But see, I haven't seen them all yet, and neither of you.
I have. They're all right here.
All right.
I like the
Go ahead, Clint, because I know you can't hold it in. Go ahead. Which one do you like?
Well, more than likely, my mind will change anyway by tomorrow. But for today, I like the 2 car.
And there it is, Austin Cindric. He is throwing back to the Rod Osterland race team of 1979 and 80. Dale Earnhardt was Rookie of the Year in 79, driving a blue and yellow Chevrolet, painted just like this. There's the Monte Carlo. Mike Curb was the sponsor. He is still sponsoring race cars. Curb Entertainment, Curb Records, Warner Hodgson on the hood. Rod Osterland won the team, and with Doug Richard as crew chief, Earnhardt won the 1980 championship in his 2nd season in the sport. That was Cale Yarborough right behind in the 27, the MC Anderson car, but wow. How cool is that?
When I first started in racing, that Monte Carlo body style right there, my boss that owned a Goodyear tire store I was working at, I was 15, 16 years old, and he built a street stock car, that same body style. It was a boat. My gosh, it was so long. I'm like, you're never going to get that thing to turn.
That
and
is so
cool.
Should be mandatory.
Well,
run the street stock class and those types of cars
100%.
because the boat is a great way to describe it.
All right, so let's just take a minute as we look at the drivers who will be in turn 1 to excuse the teams who have not chosen a throwback paint scheme for this weekend. Many of them have 1 or several race sponsors who want their branding on the car and have elected not to buy into the throwback theme. And the less said about that, the better. But we respect what they have to do. Oh my gosh. So in 1965, the Lotus of Colin Chapman went to Indianapolis with Formula One champ Jim Clark at the wheel. And back then, Formula One cars, English cars had to be British racing green. Italian cars had to be red. Those were the rules. And your numbers had to be black inside, white roundels. Lotus powered by Ford. Now, there were a lot of British teams. So the Brabhams had a gold stripe around the nose. Colin Chapman's Lotuses had a yellow stripe around the nose. And that is the car that Jim Clark rode to victory in the 1965 Indianapolis 500. And Leonard Wood, who you saw there, was the crew chief. Ford, who provide the power, asked the Wood brothers to pit the car for Jim Clark, and they handily won the Indy 500.
Yeah, we had Leonard and Eddie Wood on the podcast this week, taping an episode that you'll hear down the road, and he told the story about that fuel system and how he built it, and standing in or sitting inside the car working on the Venturi of how that fuel was going to flow. Just great stories of the innovation and the things that happened in the sport. But that pit stop was pretty important to that victory.
Absolutely.
See, I knew that was Clark's 65 Indianapolis 500 victory. I had no idea that the color was a rule, or the number black and the white. Come on, Mike. You're flexing on us bad here. You're making Kevin and I look bad.
No, I just read a lot back then. I read every car magazine I could find, and a lot of it stuck, I guess. Jamie.
Well, Ryan Preece has been flexing lately. 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. You guys are on a roll, Ryan. But here we are, practice at Darlington. What are some of the benefits for you to be in the second group and get to hook up and look at all the data?
Yeah, well, I think Darlington, this is a track that changes so much with rubber, right? And even though we had Xfinity cars out there, it's definitely better to be out there the second round and get a good feel for where your car is going to be. And you know, Derek and this entire Country Croc, Kroger, Ford Mustang, they've been doing a great job all year. And yeah, so I feel good. You know, obviously last year they were really strong here, and watching Brad, I feel like our pace is going to be good. Thank you.
The reason Ryan Preece is in the second group is because of those top 3 finishes. So Eric Jones, this is a tribute to John Andretti's victory, driving for Richard Petty in 1998 for Throwback Weekend. STP, for whom Richard had a lifelong sponsorship from Andy Granatelli, and they still run a race a year with STP as the primary sponsor on that 43. Now, when they first signed the deal in about 1972 or 3, Richard said the car is going to be Petty Blue. Andy Granatelli said no, the car is going to be STP Dayglow Red. They argued and argued and argued, and the deal almost came apart until they painted it both colors. And that's what you see.
It's way down on the apron right there, Kevin. You see Cross is pretty low.
And to me, the next gen car, Gen 7 car here, that is the old school line with the old car, and Eric's trying to make this work as you see him running the bottom of the racetrack. I found when I drove this car, it would run fast down there on the apron, but it was super hard on the tires.
In 3 and 4.
In both ends. You saw him on the apron in 1, and through the middle, you're going to see him try to
as low as
him running low right here, just looking for something different. But I find it to be super hard on the right rear tire and hurts it on the long run.
Eric Jones, 2-time winner here. Is he on your bingo card for tomorrow?
Should be.
Yeah.
Hocevar, a lot of speed out of this car again. They have unloaded speed each and every week with the 77 car.
And you see he's got the opposite, that high entry into 1, gives you a little better angle through the middle of the corner. That's a very unique corner through 1 and 2. Carson has a lot of speed, but I think that later in a run and later in the second half of the race, his entry into 1 and up against this wall is definitely what you want to do to take care of the tires to make that car good on the long run.
Hocevar started second to Bubba Wallace here last fall.
There's Barry, you see him on the pylon as well, right behind him. Again, another car that's just really delivering speed out of that race car each and every week.
Look at the pylon. Now, hats off to our Fox Graphics group. They have even incorporated the throwback numbers into our pylon. Well done. Look at that 21 there for the Wood brothers. They call it a roundel, Clint. I don't know why.
Roundel.
So 42, John Hunter Nemechek. Remember when his dad ran that paint scheme for Bell South for car owner Felix Sabates? 42 Cup car, Chevy Monte Carlo.
That's got to be neat. Anytime you can throw it back to anybody, right? Any one of your legends. But when your hero is your own father, it doesn't get any better than that.
Noah Gregson. Beefaroo back on the car, and if you are seeing that car and thinking mom and pop's, okay, because Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Xfinity Series debut came in this paint scheme in 1996 at Myrtle Beach. There he is.
Hard to believe it's been that long ago already.
Well, Clint, we are getting old.
Thanks, Kev. You're getting there quicker than I am.
I know.
I don't mind growing old. It's growing up that I'm opposed to.
Well, you don't have to do that, Mike.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Kev.
I don't have that.
You don't have that problem. You'll never have that problem.
He's never even thought about it.
Yeah.
He's going to be our 90-year-old teenager one of these days.
Capability is a real thing, and I don't think that one's in my capabilities.
Alex Bowman honors Jimmy Johnson's 2012 Southern 500 win. After a number of very close calls, Hendrick Motorsports got their 200th victory right here in 2012 with that Cobalt Tools Lowe's Chevrolet.
Took a lot of our fun out in those years, Kevin, that guy, and that paint scheme. My gosh, he was a selfish race car driver.
Yeah, that 48 car with Jimmy and Chad Knaus as the crew chief and Hendrick Motorsports and everything that they were able to accomplish during that time, won so many races, and definitely was hard to beat.
Just ahead of him there, Cole Custer. Now the Haas factory car. If you're thinking Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Spencer drove that paint scheme for Chip Ganassi Racing in 2002 with a big Target bullseye on the hood.
I mean, that's exactly where it takes me.
Yep. Nice job.
Jimmy Spencer, his whole family. What a legendary family and everything that they've done. He's so much fun. Every time you run into him, it just makes you smile.
And he's exactly the same. He came into the golf cart store a few weeks ago, bought a cart, and he is identical to the way that he used to be. Still talk to Jimmy every once in a while. What a great man.
Custer 13th on the board right now. The 99 for Daniel Suarez. I mean, thousands of race cars have carried the Quaker State colors. Probably most notably Steve Kinzer. Was it Steve Kinzer, World of Outlaws, carried Quaker State?
One of my quick
wow.
all-time heroes. There's only a few kings in life, and he is certainly one of the kings of motorsport.
I may be confused because I know he had Valvoline for a long time on Kinzer's sprint car.
He always, that green was the first one.
But you could say Brett Bodine, who won his first Cup race in a Quaker State car for Kenny Bernstein. Or
yeah, just keep going.
Yeah, there's a long list.
They didn't have bad drivers in them.
No.
Well, you see some of these iconic brands that have been in the sport for so long, and Quaker State is just a motorsports iconic brand that is top to bottom had so many vehicles that are you can identify to be top level in their division.
It's got to be a throwback to Ward Burton.
It is because Tommy Baldwin, who was the crew chief on that Caterpillar Dodge when it won the Daytona 500 for Bill Davis Racing with Ward Burton. Trouble off turn 2.
Got somebody around.
Got a lot of smoke over there, and it's John Hunter.
Check the tires up. All good here.
I think it is all good, Kevin.
But they're still up.
Well, we saw John Hunter. He was being very aggressive right up next to the wall, doing exactly what you need to do to get that rhythm down as a driver. See what happened here.
Look it over. You're running good laps there, so we can talk about it.
He's already in. You can see the smoke.
Yeah,
had to have been getting in the corner, more than likely probably crossing that apron, Kevin.
And I think that the crossing the apron, you'll have to cross the apron, but it just makes the car a little bit unstable as you come off the apron back up onto the racetrack. We saw that with Eric Jones. We saw how much his car was moving around earlier as he would go on and off of that apron. So probably just lost it as he went up the hill, and based on the skid marks in turns 1 and 2.
A long run Here is about 18 laps so far, and Josh Berry has the best consecutive 10 and 15 over Hocevar and Keselowski. Larry?
Yeah, Mike, this is exactly what no one wanted to see that's in this practice right here. I talked to some crew chiefs this morning. As I said earlier, they want to make a long run. You don't want anything to interfere with that long run right there, because then you start getting a false reading because of cycling the tires. But guys, the common thing, tight in the middle, edgy off. I'm hearing that across the board, almost every driver that's out there right now.
Yeah.
Well, one leads to the other.
And I think that's, looking at the right side of that car of John Hunter, I would say that he probably went up the hill. Typically what happens, and the reason that those guys start going onto the apron, is because their car is tight up the hill. And usually you get tight and then you clip that wall. And with these cars, if it clips the wall wrong, it'll just spin out.
That car's hit it pretty hard. Yep. Let's see about this car.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that car bounce a couple times. You see the new tire marks that it left against the wall. As you come down the hill right there, there's an asphalt patch that's really colored up, but there's a bump right at the end of it. And if you have a little bit of wheel and you're not in the center of that patch, the center of that patch on the exit of 2 is way smoother than a little bit up or a little bit down. And the way that these guys have to run the car, you need to have the wheel straight right there so that it doesn't get out from underneath you or it doesn't hop it up the racetrack.
The other thing is,
right there, Clint.
And look at the angle of the wall. Obviously, that's the bump you're talking about right there, but look at the angle of the wall here, and that goes back to the right side of those cars, a lot higher up on the fender that they've hit than what we're accustomed to seeing.
And that patch is a lot, it actually matches the surface in color right now, but you can see that seam that Clint highlighted right there, that just shoots you up towards the wall on the exit. And when they added the safer barriers, it even made it tighter right there. So really easy to get the car up, you know, a couple feet and hit the fence.
All right, let's listen to Carson Hocevar.
Just too tight. Entering 1 right now, even firing. I'm okay, center off, but then as I build, the tires get hot, I get really stuck rubber 1 and 2. That when I get to the rubber match, I just get tight. Like I almost have to start below rubber and then cross.
And that'll be the battle that they fight all weekend, is that rubber will move around. The hot spot will be on the apron, then it'll be left sides on the hash marks into 1, and then they'll start running that high line. But you have to be able to adjust. When that comment starts to happen on the radio, you need to move down and find a cleaner groove. So they will chase that rubber all weekend and have to adjust their line. And that's what Clint was talking about as we open this show. You're going to have to be versatile, but you're also going to have to search every single lap, because sometimes it'll be the rubber, sometimes it'll be the tire wear, and sometimes it'll be the way that your car is handling. So you're in a constant search as a driver as to where you need to be on the racetrack.
The other side of that is you're never comfortable at this racetrack. You've heard them all tight. All right, front turns, no good. I need some front turn. Okay, let me free the car up. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now I'm way too loose, way too hard on the right rear. Balance of a race car is so important, because you can't be too hard on any of them. They'll wear out. We've seen people with right rear trouble before here, and right front.
And the other thing that Larry went back to, having to refire on these tires in the middle of this practice session, just takes the definite read out of what you wanted to do on that long run when you have to refire on the tires, because they just don't feel very good. It's hard to get back into a rhythm once you stop, and this is very much a rhythm racetrack for the drivers. You'll see how close they have to run to the wall, but it's so technical, and the car placement is so important to be able to put it in the right spot, that as a driver, when you have to stop, it just breaks your rhythm.
And there's the evidence and the result over there. Poor Cookout. You buy that banner and all of a sudden it's all black.
Well, I heard him talking about tight, and that's going to put me down there in 3 and 4. You carry all that energy, all that momentum getting into 3, and it has to go somewhere, and you eventually run out of real estate, get into the fence.
All right, let's ride and listen to Brad for a lap or 2 here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. A really good refire.
So that's a really, you can hear how much work it is for the driver. And right here, you've got options. You could actually downshift right there as the pace slows down. That will help the tightness as you go up the racetrack. Brad is choosing to stay in 5th gear. So a lot of that is car specific on how your car is handling, what's going on. And you see this little notch in the wall. They'll actually go back up the hill right here to run that high line to get up the angle right to the center of the corner. But a lot of on-off throttle. Car gets really, really, as we heard Larry say earlier, really edgy as it rotates and comes up off the corner because of how much it wears the right rear tire out.
I want you to watch the wheel. You see him start, he's twitching it a little bit. When he twitches back to the right, you can hear him feathering the throttle. See, on the exit, it goes back to the right a little bit loose. Watch for a wheel lock is what I call it. When it goes all the way right and holds it right there, that's kind of tight. Right there, that's tight. Now he's going to bring it back and start unwinding a little bit free up off. And you can hear it in the throttle as well.
The big thing about this car, Clint, when you hear him unwind that wheel, you'll see him go through the center of the corner. And when he starts to unwind that wheel, especially off of 2 right here, you're going to want to be straight when you get to that stripe in the ground right there.
They freed this car up. That car's pretty free. It sounds like you could see him, twitching the wheel a little bit and feathering that throttle. He's walking it through the corner with the throttle, so to speak.
He won this race last year. This has been one of his better racetracks since coming over to what is now Roush Fenwick Keselowski.
Well, they need a good run.
17.
And the thing that will lead them to a good run on a racetrack that they think that they have success is qualifying good. They've really struggled on the qualifying side of things. We saw the 17 and 45 had that contact, and Brad was able to take advantage of that scenario right there, running 3rd and go on to win the race.
It was a hard one to call. I was absolutely crushed for Chris Buescher, but to watch his owner after a little bit of a swell find victory lane was pretty cool. Big win for him. They took care of business. At the end of the day, they got knocked down with one of them, but took care of business with the other.
That ended a 110 race winless streak for Brad here last year as we look at Riley Herbst.
This is important for these young guys to be able to get into a rhythm and learn this Cup car. So on board with SVG here. That's a pretty hard shot, Clint.
And I think it's a perfect example of getting in, and if you don't, I heard you say go up, that wall kind of comes out. Make sure you almost turn right to get and enter right on the wall. But if you overdrive that corner with all that speed, all the momentum that you carry off of turn 2, it'll drive you right into it.
And that's why your markers are so important here. Driving in just a little bit too far and carrying just a little bit too much speed, that car under braking and downshifting, if you get in there a little bit too far, all of a sudden it just goes into a 4-wheel drift, and the only thing that stops you is the fence.
SVG ran here last fall, finished 26th as we look at Austin Hill.
When I heard him getting tight, I started looking at the wall in 3 and 4, and then the exit of 2.
And when you're tight like that, you have to back your entry speed up and get the car in the right spot so that you can, when you're slow on entry, you have the option here to throttle back up to the center of the corner and lift again. So
I'm so glad you said that. That's a hard, for me, that was always hard to find that balance and find the rhythm in that. So, all right, I'm with you. Back up the corner so I don't drive up and just smoke the fence getting into the corner. But then because you back the corner up, it makes you pick up the gas sooner and drive a push into it again over at about the 3/4 mark. That was always a tricky balance for me to find that happy medium.
And when you look at guys like, let's just use Larson, for example, we know he'll be good up against the fence, but they'll actually throttle back up to the center of the corner, and sometimes they'll tap the brake a little bit to the center and lift, but that's how you manage that speed. You can't drive the car in further here, or you risk on both ends. You'll risk driving straight in the fence, just like we saw Shane do right there.
And it won't be a love tap either.
No, and
I'm coming in,
and it's flat.
You're going to be disappointed in me.
Austin Dillon.
You see Austin running the bottom of the racetrack right there, and you can do that for a couple laps, but you're going to pay the for that as you get to the long run. And
yeah, lap 25, you're gonna wish you did.
It's way harder on the right rear tire. So I know that you want to be out from behind somebody, but you have to be up the racetrack to be as easy on those tires as possible to not wear them out. Now this is practice. You're going to have to pass people. You're going to have to be able to do that on a restart and know what your car is doing. But for the long haul, you've got to be up against the fence to carry that momentum. And when somebody's in that line, you have to change the entry in the way that you get to the wall to be able to not get that front end tightness from an aero standpoint and run in the same line. So you still have to adjust your line, but you got to find one end of the racetrack or the other that you're good on. Maintain on one end and use the other end as your passing corner to set up or execute the pass. So very difficult when the cars are behind each other from an aero standpoint to not have that front end slide out from underneath you.
Austin Cindric back out. He picked up a pretty good stripe on the front of the front fender of the car last time out. What's the we keep a Darlington stripe count. Last I saw it was at 8 with Van Gisbergen. I'm not sure. Probably today. I don't know. Just through all of the practice, both practice sessions, I say we get to about 20 today.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe triple digits tomorrow.
And don't think that these guys didn't go back and watch Homestead and what Kyle Larson did in practice, just beating up the right side of his car. They all want to figure out how to be better up against the wall at places like this and Homestead. And they saw how aggressive that he was and what happened to Alex Bowman not being quite as comfortable at the end of that race when he put his car right up next to the fence. So it's you got to be aggressive in practice.
J.J. Yaley, everybody that's ever been to Darlington or seen a highlight package from here knows this paint scheme. $1 million bill. Bill Elliott in the Coors Melling Ford family race team came here and won the Winston Million. If you won 3 of the big 4 races in one season, R.J. Reynolds gave you $1 million bonus, and that was a lot of money back in 1985.
$1 million bill.
That's right. This was the 1988 scheme here.
There's only one.
Yep.
It's in a museum, right?
I'm not sure which one. Which museum? I know.
I think it's this one. I think it's right here. Yeah.
One of his cars is in the Henry Ford, right next to the Jim Clark Indy winner. But that was the one that won the pole at Talladega at record speed. And yes, one is probably right here in the NMPA Stock Car Museum, National Motorsports Press Association Museum and Stock Car Hall of Fame.
I'm confident in my read. There's one here.
I believe it.
I don't know what I read, but
there's your count, Mike. We're up to 12.
Wow. Larry Mack?
Yeah, Mike, I'm here with John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter, you ran 14 laps and it just got away from you. Damage, and are you going to be able to get back out there in this practice?
No, we're done for this practice. Flat spotted the tires just from size. But the guys at Brada are really good. Dollar Tree Toyota Camry XC this weekend. Looking forward to qualifying here in just a few, resetting, and going to race tomorrow. Balance adjustments, we got to be a little bit better. I just overstepped for the balance that I had and couldn't quite save it. So part of Darlington.
Mike, that's Darlington. Doesn't discriminate. It'll even get the best of you in practice.
So Larry, I've got to know, I see those Krispy Kreme patches all over your throwback Robert Yates shirt. Did they pay you guys in dollars or donuts?
I don't know what they paid Robert Yates. Back then, though, they paid Larry Mack in donuts. But the good thing is, Mike, 34 years, she still fits. Now, the pants, that's a whole nother story.
I'm with you. Very sharp.
Looking good, my man.
Yep. Alex Bowman out, continues to run. Searching for speed. He is 14th of 19 in this session for individual laps.
Quietly had a good year. Been running really well.
Runner up in the Daytona 500. And
yeah, this is
top 5, 6.
This is difficult right here, getting onto pit road. You see
good
him
practice, yeah.
come off the racetrack, and here at Darlington, you use your same lift point that you technically would on a race lap to get down the pit road. It's just you can't see it. It's so far down on the bottom. And so slick on the old tires and the rocks and the dirt.
Tires.
Wow.
And hard to practice. You go out here and you're maybe 30 laps in. You go out there at speed and try to do that in a green flag, situation, wide open. It is very, very challenging. Probably a little better to be safe than sorry in that.
I'd rather lose a second than miss pit road.
Yesterday, Daniel Suarez was at the brand new 10/10ths Motor Club outside Charlotte Motor Speedway, a project of Marcus and Graham Smith and Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon. It's a road course, and they were there to have participate in a celebrity pro-am. Catherine Lake was there, Scott Pruitt, Boris Said. A lot of great racers were there. Jeff Gordon won it. Of course, he does have a lot of laps. He helped develop that course.
I was going to say, it's his track.
Well, yes.
Home track advantage.
It was all for Speedway Children's Charities, Clint. It was for a great cause. Oh, boy. Yeah, this was the first ever race on that new track, and that is my son Scott climbing out of his Camaro. He won the pole, congratulating Peter Kloot there, the second place finisher, and Ket Adams third. A bunch of Camaro Mustangs, Javelins, Firebirds, a GTO, Camaros. Had a blast inaugurating the new 10/10ths road course. A lot of fun. A lot more stories, a lot more throwbacks to come with our second round of practice.
From racetrack to road, Mobil 1 Motor Oils make whatever you drive more beautifully.
Welcome to the breakthrough era, the get knocked down and get back up era, the yo, how did you do that era, the keep playing era. Let's do this. Play for the performance. Who's next? The speed, the thrill, the dream, the joy. Play for the culture. Play for the breakthrough. And once you hit it, you know what to do. Keep playing.
Hitting the open road is not just about the miles you travel. It's about the freedom you find along the way, where relaxation embraces the spirit of discovery, where technology seamlessly blends into the background, where innovation meets dependable design, and home comforts are always within reach. Because life's best stories aren't written inside four walls. They're lived out here.
Every hero's story has a humble beginning. Every legend had to earn their stripes. Every superstar had a dream.
It's been a fairy tale season.
Every home track is the start of something special.
That's just good old short track racing.
Oh, little retaliation. Holy cow. Learn more about NASCAR regional tracks near you at NASCAR.com/regional.
You're sick, on vacation, and now your wife is faced with going out there, with them, alone. But mom's having none of that. She got you a virtual visit with Amazon One Medical. And soon, beds will get delivered right to the hotel. Because no one gets out of joyful family fun. No one.
Game 7 is a new 5-part anthology on the greatest Game 7s ever, featuring Red Sox-Yankees infamous rivalry, Gretzky's Oilers, the 2016 curse-breaking Cubs, the 94 New York Rangers, and more. You can watch it now on Prime Video. Larry Mack?
Yeah, Mike, I'm with Josh Berry, second quickest. Josh, you ran about 32 laps. That's considered a long run at Darlington. What did the old 21 car have in it?
Yeah, I thought it felt good. I was really happy with how we fired off. We built a little free over the long run. Honestly, ran good here last year in the 4-car. Really got a good feel for what I think I need for Sunday. So I think we need to tighten the car up just a tick, just to help the second half of the run. But overall, the car feels pretty good. So I'm happy with it, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Does it get any cooler than crawling in the 21 car for the Wood Brothers at Darlington?
It's pretty awesome, and obviously we got an amazing throwback here with Jim Clark. Just thank you so much to Motorcraft and Quick Lane, everybody at Ford Motor Company for allowing us to do it, and it's been a really cool story. Obviously, that Indy 500 win means a lot to Leonard Wood, which has been really fun to see. So just can't wait for tomorrow. Feel good about our car. We have a fast Ford Dark Horse Mustang, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Well, Jamie, they were fast here a year ago, and he's fast today once again.
Hey, Larry Mack, right over your shoulder with Carson Hocevar, the fastest man on track so far today. So once again, a fast race car. So maybe a pole contender. What do you think?
I don't know. We're kind of going out in that kind of best spot or time it seems to go out is like 15th is when we roll out. But we qualified on the front row here last year, and I think our car is way better than it was last year. We actually have grip and has long run speed, I feel like. Yeah, it's a lot different, setup completely different than last year. These Ziegler.com, Spire Motorsports, Chevrolets are guys are working really hard. So yeah, we've been fast this year. I just can't finish for whatever reason. I don't know if I used up all my my good luck and good karma in Atlanta, but trying to earn some of that keep back and keep us up front. I feel like done a lot of the right things, just something out of the ordinary, a freak deal or engine or something mechanical or something freak deal. But Hendrick Engine Department's done a really good job and helped us out. Hendrick pit crews have been great. Jeff Dickerson's here, everybody's here. It's going to be a good weekend for us, I feel like, and it's a good time to give us a reset, hopefully.
Well, so far, so fast for Carson Hocevar, Mike.
Absolutely. He ran 39 laps in that session, and almost the most of all drivers. Daniel Suarez ran 40. So we're going to adjust the stripe count and clean some of them up before we get ready to qualify. Round 2 practice coming up next.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price, and we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 5-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
The MX-5 Cup is the absolute pinnacle of action at the racetrack.
Here we go! Oh, I'm so excited for this.
It's a high-intensity chess match at 130 miles an hour.
Absolute carnage!
There's a different breed of driver out there.
We are starting a new era of racing.
Woo! I can't even remember a time when I wasn't racing.
Away from racing, I don't have a purpose.
It's consumed me.
For 6 years, I was the only female racer. Now being a team owner, I manage everything. Also, I'm a mom. It's exhausting.
This is my rookie season. It's a lot of pressure.
I want to be the best driver, not the best girl driver.
Oh, I want it so bad.
Do or die.
Turns out we know what we're doing.
The following stunts are performed by professionals. Don't try this shit.
It's the fastest, most unpredictable speedway on Earth.
Iron made this place. Mined, smelted, forged. And every spring, we gather round and celebrate. Iron sharpening iron.
Oh, he gets tattooed!
But in order to take it all home, you need nerves of steel. The big one is back. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Beautiful skies at Darlington Raceway. Welcome back to NASCAR on Prime. One round of practice complete. Round 2 in the offing here, and then we'll qualify. All right, Clint, there's your corner.
Well, this corner becomes difficult, and you see a lot of the front fenders have scrapes on them, and this wall actually hangs over the racetrack, Clint, and that's why we're seeing a lot of those. It happens in several parts of the racetrack, but this is the exit of turn 4, and when you see this wall right here, you'll see a lot of these guys kind of drive down the racetrack because the arc of this corner, the arc of this wall doesn't, you can see the difference in, it makes everybody drive almost straight to the fence right there. So
well, I'm going to use it. Look at this part right here. That isn't exactly, I don't have my protractor out, but that doesn't exactly hold perfect.
Wait
arc.
A second.
You're gonna run into trouble right about there if you follow that wall.
You just used a word called protractor. Did you actually use it? Do you know how to use it? I'm impressed. You actually went to math.
The drivers you'll see in Group 2.
A lot of hitters in this one. This is obviously the faster group from the way that they finish points and the way that they figure out everything from last week's finish.
Yeah, the metric now is a little simpler than it was. It's only 2 components. Last week's finishing position and point standing position for that car number.
We like simple, Mike.
Denny Hamlin throwing back to Carl Edwards.
Good one.
Newly minted Hall of Famer. This is the Office Depot car.
Carl also spent a lot of time in driving some of those sports clip schemes.
Yep, for Joe Gibbs.
Throughout his years, and Denny so much a part of the sport clips brand, and so good here, Clint.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, if I were Denny, I'd just throw it back to last week. What a win. What a dominating performance at Martinsville for Denny Hamlin.
This is the Denny Hamlin that we know from Martinsville. Just went out and took care of business all day long. So good at that racetrack. It was hard to believe it was a decade since the last time he visited Victory Lane, but back to his old ways.
If you like Denny at Martinsville, you'll love him here. 4 wins here, leads all active drivers, and his average finish here of 8.2 also leads all drivers.
Much like Martinsville, though, had a softer tire this time around than we had in a spring race there, and you know, it puts it back in the driver's hands a little bit. Who can take care of those tires the best, and is always Denny Hamlin top of that list. So come here to Darlington, same principle applies, same driver at the top.
Here's a throwback to Jeff Gordon for, of course, the 24 of William Byron. This was the final ride scheme that Jeff Gordon wore in 2015 at Homestead, Miami. Sponsor colors, just everything about it.
Pretty tough.
I fanned out that day at the racetrack, took a picture by myself with the car sitting on the grid. That, well, I mean, it's Jeff Gordon, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know,
hard to believe all the laps, all the wins, all the victories, all the stories that he collected behind that number.
And so many great paint schemes from DuPont and Exalta through the both names through the whole era of Jeff Gordon and on through to today. They still have great schemes.
Now, I saw a great, I guess you'd have to call it a meme on social media of this paint scheme. This was Terry Labonte's paint scheme in the Rick Hendrick 2003, Terry's last Cup victory, which came here at Darlington. But there's a meme on social media that instead of Tony the Tiger on the hood, it's a picture of Rick Hendrick on the hood. And it's really pretty cool. Instead of HenrickCars.com, which, of course,
this puts
is entirely appropriate.
Into when I started watching racing on 4 wheels. And this was one of the first cars I remember is Texas Terry in that Tiger car. Cool looking paint scheme. Glad Kyle Larson brought it back.
Well, Kyle Larson's going to be a busy boy in the month of May again this year. And Jamie, they've got some special guests here for that.
Yes, they do, Mike. Today marks officially 50 days until the Indianapolis 500 and Coke 600. It's been well documented. Kyle Larson will once again attempt to do the double, and the work begins now. Two of his race engineers from IndyCar from the McLaren group are here. There's one. They're just listening to how Cliff talks to his driver, how Kyle talks and communicates with his engineers to get a good idea. Now, they did warn him, Kyle doesn't talk a whole lot, so don't be afraid to ask questions. But this is just the beginning, Mike. He will go back and forth to Indianapolis multiple times for seat fittings, getting acquainted with his team for this year. He'll also be on track for an open test later in the month. So, yes, you are right. By the way, they announced the paint scheme for the Indy 500 car last week. So, always a busy time in Indy and here for Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I saw that car yesterday at the Hendrick Team Center in Concord, and you know, a lot of blue and white and some McLaren, don't call it orange, call it papaya. Very, 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 very cool for Kyle Larson, who, yes, will have quite a busy May. And of course, last year the Coke 600 was on Fox. This year the Indianapolis 500 and all of the events leading up to it will be on Fox and FS1. Larson has the 4th best odds to win the Indy 500 pole right now.
Yeah, and we see Ty Gibbs right here, and you see him up against the wall, but he's also up on the timing pylon. Second fastest car in this group, doing a great job so far today. We've seen a little bit of a resurgence over the last few weeks of that 54.
That was a good lap.
Second behind William Byron in this group, 8th overall. Ryan Preece, 3rd in this group, 11th overall. Country Crock, one of the brands that co-ops with Kroger supermarkets on this car for RFK.
And they've done a great job over the last, really the whole season. They've been able to lead laps, run in front, put themselves in position to get you know, a few top 10s in a row now. So that's what you have to do. It's those small victories of being able to get into the top 10, lead those laps to really get that confidence in not only the driver but the team.
Here's Preece's stats through 7 races, 3 top 10s, 1 top 5. Stage points, including a stage win and 43 laps led.
Yeah, those top 10s are all in the last 3 races too. That, I mean, just what a year, a difference a year makes. Ryan Preece, and I talked to Josh Berry yesterday as well, the same type of scenario for him. Happy for those guys.
Ryan Blaney, you know, his dad, Dave, was a World of Outlaws champion, came to NASCAR, ran in the Xfinity Series, ran in the Cup Series. When he won in the Xfinity Series in Charlotte in 2006, Haas Avocados was on the car.
I remember that.
There they are. And that is the scheme he's throwing back to his dad's only NASCAR win.
The bullet.
You said it earlier, Clint. How cool is it to be able to have these younger guys be able to throw back to their dads? Dave Blaney, just salt of the earth human being, and also a great race car driver that has done this for so long. Ryan Blaney following right in those footsteps of being a stud, and being able to throw back to him is obviously something that is got to be pretty fun for Ryan.
What a family. I mean, a family tradition. The roots run deep. Both brothers were beasts behind the wheel of sprint cars, Dale and Dave Blaney.
And it started with their dad, Lou,
going, baby.
was a big star out of Ohio. Chris Buescher, Fifth Third Bank, and RFK Racing.
He definitely was in position to win this race last year. Had the contact with Tyler Reddick, led to some spirited conversation.
Should have.
Yeah.
It was warranted. Man, it was a heartbreaker, but it was all right in a row. Here, Kansas. It was a tough thing to watch and call. I mean, I was crushed for him. We all know how hard it is to get around this racetrack, get yourself in position after all the things that can happen and go wrong, and to take this race win from you and happen right there at the end.
Larry?
Yeah, Mike, Chris Buescher just told us rookie Scott Gray said, I'm really happy with this 17 car down in turns 1 and 2. I just need a little something from the middle of turns 3 and 4 off. The car is just not down in the racetrack on the exit of 4.
Thanks, Larry. Chase Briscoe. This is not a Martin Truex Jr. throwback, but you could be forgiven in thinking so. It's okay.
Yeah, use it. Go with it.
Let's do that. Let's call it a throwback to Martin Truex.
Throw it back to him at this racetrack. That's right. Let's go back to last fall with his big win. The bold statement. He took it from him.
Driving the 14. Let's go on the bottom.
Yeah,
taking the pass, taking the win.
Needed to win that race to get in the playoffs, and Stewart-Haas Racing at the end of their life there.
And may have been a big part of, I mean, that's the reason why Joe Gibbs took a chance on him. I mean, he showed and proved that he can get the job done against the best at one of the hardest racetracks.
Well, and he was the only guy to finish in the top 5 here in both races last year, so that win wasn't a fluke. It's a racetrack that he's run well at, and look to do the same thing again in this Joe Gibbs racing car.
Yep. For that reason alone, I would want him on my fantasy team this week.
Don't tell Clint that.
I would not want to own this camera.
No, I won't be there long. Kyle Busch. Not for anything Kyle would do, just, you know, things happen here.
Yeah, on any car. It had nothing to do with Kyle. It was just in general. Struggling a little bit with the 8-car Kyle Busch. It's a good racetrack for him.
Really good. We lacked a little bit there on the front end, the first 5 or 6. Really good now.
Well,
2 or 3 best car right now.
There it is. How about that? Gave up a little bit on the front side. That's experience. That's wisdom with Kyle Busch. We know long runs are important. Save those tires. Don't give me that big lap up front. I want to see that big lap on lap 25, 30 on down the road.
And you're exactly right. You can be a little bit off at the beginning of these runs, and
not going anywhere anyway.
As this race goes on, the grind of this race and being able to stay consistent and keep your car handling and keep it as clean as possible on the right side. There's an art to that, and it's not by chance that certain guys finish better here than others, and are able to put their car in the same spot lap after lap after lap, and not be able to tear it up, but also be able to make decent speed.
All right, so Kyle Busch didn't win a race last year, but he was part of that 3-wide finish, the closest 3-wide finish ever at Atlanta early in the season, and he finished second to Chase Briscoe here last fall, so he is competitive. Don't count him out. Tyler Reddick.
Another car we know that likes running that outside, is comfortable running there, always finds good speed while running up there. And speaking of speed, best consecutive 20 laps. Look down the old list. Don't have to look far. Tyler Reddick, number 4 on that list.
Not a throwback paint scheme, but when I see that livery and that sponsor, all right, who do you think of? Who's the first driver you think of when you see McDonald's?
A Big Mac.
Big Mac does not drive in this series.
Driver.
Drivers.
I can't see McDonald's.
I would say Bill Elliott.
I would say Bill Elliott.
Yeah.
Spencer had it too, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if I was going to piece a Big Mac together with a driver, it'd probably be closer to the fit with Spencer than Elliott. But
okay.
I saw a Big Mac. Maybe I'm hungry, guys.
All right.
I knew you were going with that.
Well, this is a throwback paint scheme for Chase Elliott. Remember when Kenny Schrader was one of the stars of Hendrick Motorsports and drove the number 25 Kodiak Chevy? There it is as Illumina.
Very cool.
It led the most laps in the 1994 Southern 500 with Schrader at the wheel.
What all-time character. Still to this day.
Yep.
We just talked about this earlier.
Yeah, still racing, still winning.
Well, but you're going to get older. You might not grow up. I think Schrader's a prime example of exactly how I want to live the rest of my life. You never know when you're going to get a phone call with Schrader or where he's going to be in the country. Boy, yeah, man.
What's up?
What are you doing? You woke me up. What do you got? Oh, we're in New Mexico running a race right here. You're never going to believe this. I was telling them a story, and they know you. I thought I'd call him. I'm like, well, that's cool, Schrader.
It is so random. He does the same thing to me. And he won't need anything. He'll just hear somebody mention your name or just see something that reminded you of something that happened. And next thing you know, your phone's ringing.
And you go, where are you? And he goes, oh, we're at Barn Door Speedway in East Calflop, Vermont. And we're having a big time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywhere. Could be anywhere. Christopher Bell. Honoring his mentor. Remember Rick Ferkel, great sprint car driver? He gave Christopher his break in sprint cars, and so Christopher is honoring him here today. That silver on the roof represents the sprint car wing. Squint, you can see it.
I like the fact that he's sponsored by a speed shop. That's old school. Those old Firestone tires are cool. Look at the knockoff wheels on it. Just so much about that thing is nostalgia. I like the DeWalt on the side of that car and the old school logo too. It looks neat.
Awesome. Love it when these sponsors play into the throwback weekend here. So when, I'll tell you the story in a minute after we have a look at Bubba Wallace in a very contemporary paint scheme. Columbia Sportswear on board his 23 Toyota. So when Len Wood made the phone call to England to Clive Chapman, Colin Chapman's son, Colin Chapman, who founded Lotus, to ask for permission to use the Lotus livery on the number 21. The problem is Clive Chapman is very English, and over in England they don't use the word throwback. They don't get it. So Len's trying to explain the whole thing about Darlington Throwback Weekend, and finally Len says, like Goodwood. Oh, Goodwood, you know, the revival and, you know, the wonderful things that happen there with the old cars. And that's how they put it together that this was the right thing to do. And he says, yeah, it's like Goodwood, but it's a regular season race. It's not a revival vintage car weekend. And it all came together. We're glad it did. Ross Chastain.
1 and 2 look better.
With the Busch Light scheme. Did you ever have this scheme, Kevin? Not an official throwback, but you had something like it, did you not?
Busch Light always does a great job with all their fishing and hunting schemes. I don't believe that I had one just like this, but I had a lot of fish on my car.
Definitely fishing season. I tell you what, 87 degrees, I'm needing a Busch Light. That's just.
So you're saying it would be a bad day to be a Busch Light in your fridge?
Pork chop sounds pretty good right now.
Not a better sponsor in the sport than those guys right there. They do a great job activating.
So this is Todd Gilliland, and boy, it's definitely a throwback scheme. One of NASCAR's early and greatest, winningest car owners was Ray Fox, later a NASCAR official. Had this Dodge, had a lot of Chevrolets, had great success. This is at Daytona, and that Ray Fox number 3, Junior Johnson drove for Ray, and so did a lot of Hall of Famers. So Ray Fox Jr. was involved in the sport, and Raymond Fox the third, and now Fox's great grandson is a tire changer for Todd Gilliland on this number 34.
All right, they're old school throwback guy. Why did they always run the racing stripe on the side over to one side, over the top? Why is that not centered?
Well,
has to be something, and here we go.
It kind of varied by team. When they're like that, they're called rally stripes, a wide stripe with a narrow one on either side.
What about these stripes?
And it varies. Well, these stripes, these are very different. Ooh. Yikes. Add one.
No problem.
Nope.
No problem there.
Add two.
Looks a little different from that shot, Clint. Got to the wall a little faster, but just with that right rear, and that's, we talked about this at Homestead, when you can just hit it with the right rear.
Larry?
Yeah, Mike, you talked about Ray Fox, and you talked about his great-grandson, Austin Fox, as a tire changer. Austin's dad, Raymond Fox III, is actually the car chief on the 12 car for Ryan Blaney, Jonathan Hassler. Raymond Fox III was my car chief in the early 90s when I was wearing this crew uniform shirt that I've got on right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry. Ray Fox Engineering, Daytona Beach, Florida. Ray, a longtime nominee to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Really cool.
And Clint, I think it's just a matter of owner or driver preference where you run that stripe, whether it's down the center or over one side or the other, usually on the driver's side, so it kind of lines up with with the drive.
I think that stripe fits Clint more, a little off center. So
I sure thought there would be some sort of, you know, country reason or something. I don't know. I'm quizzing you on that one, Mike. I don't know.
All right, now this one,
I'm buying what you told me.
This one is Ty Dillon. That is Patty Moise, and she was a pioneering and very successful Busch Grand National Series driver. That is her 1989 Daytona paint scheme, and the sponsor, Beaver Street Foods, is the sponsor on Ty Dillon's car today. That's pretty cool. And this will be Zane Smith. And this is a throwback of a little different kind. It doesn't throw back to a race car, but that logo of Long John Silver with the parrot on the shoulder appeared in that chain's very first location in the 1970s. That was the first branding for the seafood chain, Long John Silver's.
This is
that big slide off of turn 2.
I think Denny's coming off the hill in 2. Oh man, look at that.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. He was about a half a lane to a lane up right there, and that bump, if you're up out of the middle of that patch as you exit turn 2, you see how much rougher it is right there, and it just unloads the car, and you're already on the right rear and really edgy right there. So when you hit that bump, it just knocks the car out from underneath you.
You know, with 3 minutes to go, 3:50 to go in practice, there's not a lot of cars out here. It tells me these guys are not happy with the handling on their cars, needing some adjustments.
What's the stripe count, fellas?
Well, there's not a lot of cars out there.
Well,
it was a dozen.
It was a dozen at the end of the first practice. We're at 20. Yeah, that's about right.
I can tell you from my, other than Nemechek spinning around, that moment we saw with Zane Smith was about as close as it gets without pulling out a backup car.
And that's what happens here as you get towards the end of these runs. It feels like you're driving on ice. You have to just, there'll be a lot of times you go through turns 1 and 2, and your only goal, Donnie Allison told me this when I first started here. He said your only goal is to touch the floorboard through the middle of the corner, and there'll be a lot of laps that'll be the most throttle that you ever have from the entry to the exit of turns 1 and 2, because there's just no grip. The cars just won't take the power to the ground. It wants to slide constantly, so it's a controlled slide almost all the way through the corner, and you're just feeding it just as much throttle as it'll take without snapping the back of the car out from underneath you.
And it's really challenging to explain to somebody sitting at home. When you say slide, I'm talking, and I promise you, sliding through the corner, just like you feel like on a gravel road or on ice. That thing is sliding through there, and you're driving it through the corner with the throttle and a little bit of input in the wheel guiding it.
So Logano, we're certainly working on long run speed. His last lap was about the same as Carson Hocevar's last lap, and Hocevar has the fastest individual lap of practice. But Logano's fastest lap in this session was almost a second slower than Hocevar's. So not looking for time trial speed here, but for long run stability. Jamie?
Well, Ty Gibbs, you guys mentioned him in the 54, 8th on the board, overall second quick in this group. Pretty happy with the car, just a little tight, but he has a new face on his team this year, a new car chief in Cheddar Smith, a very familiar face, especially for our man upstairs in the booth, Kevin Harvick, longtime car chief for Kevin alongside Rodney Childers. He actually made the move over to Spire this year, but found out this week this opportunity came up and he made the move. Now, I talked to Chris Gabehart, who oversees the Gibbs cars. He said, we tried to get him in the offseason, but things just didn't align. And they were able to come to some kind of an agreement, got Cheddar over here. So it's first week on the job for Gibbs.
Well, a lot of experience right there. Cheddar was, Robert Smith is his real name. We call him Cheddar, but he was the car chief on the 4-car for the whole time that I was at Stewart Haas Racing. He was the guy that buckled me in and out of the car for the last several years. Every time I got in or out, he was standing right there. So a lot of experience, and for a young driver, that's a big deal.
I like what Jamie said right there. Something had to, they worked something out. In other words, that doesn't happen you know, through the season as it's already started, whether we're, you know, 1 race in or 20 races in, you don't see a car chief jump ship during the season very often because of contracts and stuff like that.
30 seconds to go in this second practice session. That will finish things off, and we will turn over to qualifying. Best consecutive averages in this second session. William Byron, best 10 lap average. Austin Cindric, best 15 lap average. Blaney Priest Larson, best 20 laps. Blaney Priest Kyle Busch, best 30 consecutive laps. And there are the flags to end Group 2 practice. So for those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, hope you've enjoyed practice. Coverage will continue on Prime Video with qualifying shortly. Carson Hocevar, fastest in
F40.
Ahí está, contame esta Ferrari.
No, esto es lo máximo, esto es un cuento lindo. A ver. Mundial 86. Se va Diego para los partidos previos. Yo me quedo 2 días en Nápoles, arreglando siempre alguna cosita que había que arreglar. Ese tiempo había una pesada. Bueno, no importa. Temitas. Bueno, resulta que se va, lo llevó a Roma con la Ferrari y la testa rosa. Guille, sí, ¿me compras una Ferrari? Si tenemos esta. Estás loco, esto la usás siempre vos. Nunca me la dejas usar. Digo, si es tuya, ¿cómo no te la dejo usar? Es tuya, vos porque no salís, Nápoles. No, comprá, hay una F40, va a salir, que hacen 40 unidades, ahí estoy hablando con Careca, hacen 40 unidades nada más, y quiero una. Bueno, está bien, pensé, dije, una Ferrari, Maradona. Listo, llegamos al aeropuerto, trámite, la policía, lo compraba en Maradona. Sale cuando se va, está pasando migraciones. Guille, negra.
No.
¿Cómo negra? ¿Cómo negra? Ya había desaparecido.
No, te dejo el mensaje.
Ferrari roja. Claro. Toda la vida roja. Roja ni otro color. Bueno, me vuelvo a Nápoles. Al otro día empiezo. Luca de Montechémolo. Agnelli. Necesito. Así. Mira, sé que hay 1000 pedidos. Fíjate. ¿Por qué no me hacen una reunión con Lorenzo? Yo lo que quería conocerlo, ¿viste? Para mí, mira, después si la conseguía o no la conseguía, la verdad digo, si te estás enterando ahora, perdóname, pero yo quería conocer a Lorenzo. Bueno, tac, al otro día Monza, a 15 minutos de Milano, ¿qué hago? Testa rosa. Me voy, Testa rosa, Monza, me quedé un par de días en Milano lindo, ¿viste? Piazza Napolo. Berlusconi, la mujer.
¿Qué pasó?
No, nos quedamos atrás, pasamos mañana.
Seguimos.
Bueno, resulta. Tú, me gusta que te rías. Bueno, resulta que me siento. Don Enzo viene, Don Enzo. Ya, chao, digo, he cumplido otro sueño. ¿Entendés? Porque no se puede dejar pasar la vida sin tratar de cumplir los sueños. Hay que hacer lo imposible. Otro sueño para mí cumplido, ¿no? Digo, primera de Boca, ya había jugado, esto, otro sueño cumplido. Fangio. Se me vino tantas cosas a la cabeza cuando lo veo venir a este hombre, 80 y pico. Don Enzo, come le va? Io sono il procuratore di Sio Maratona. Me lo hanno detto. Quiero ver la posibilidad de comprar una Ferrari F40. Abbiamo tanta domanda, tenemos tantos pedidos, cerca de 3.000, y hago 40. Dice, es mi última creación. Y digo, no puede ser una, Maradona, Italia, Ferrari. La compramos. Sí, más bien. ¿Dónde la voy a regalar?
No la maneo. No había Instagram todavía.
Bueno, llamo a unos ingenieros, 470. 470. $1.000. Al cambio la lira, 470.000. Perfecto, correcto. Firma Don Enzo. Vamos, contrato en mano. Me pido la foto, me saco la foto. Se va Don Enzo. Y le digo, un piacere in più, ingegnere. Cosa? Diego la vuole nera. Nera! Nera non esiste! Non esiste proprio nera! Ma come? Non esiste! Mai Ferrari pinturerà una macchina che non fosse rossa! Nunca el Ferrari pinturerà. Hoy hay verde, gris, amarillo, azul. Guarda, Diego. Diego. Llama a los ingenieros otra vez, yo agarro bien el contrato, digo, esto no me lo sacan, Ma guarda, questi signore, vuole la macchina nera. No, Don Enzo, pregunté, le dije lo que quería Diego, no se haga problema, nessun problema. Io la porto, la prendo, la porto da Peppe. Ma chi è Peppe? Un pinturatore di Napoli, migliore pinturatore di macchina di Napoli. Ma che lei va a pinturare nera? Sì, perché Diego la vuole nera. No. Diego la vuole nera. Diego la vuole nera. Le dice a los ingenieros.
Speed from sunup to sundown. Kick off summer with a bang and discover why a NASCAR race in Michigan,
think what's yours, baby,
is anything but slow. Get your tickets today at mispeedway.com.
We're doing something special here. This is a dynasty we're building.
The Bullwinkle now for something you'll really like.
All right, here we go. I'm going to take another stab at this. Been doing this last few weeks, guys. We put a median line in it. That is the average of all runs, all with every car. Obviously, the background's the great cars. Here's your lap times over here. The laps run. Farther they go, the farther they go out. The graph goes up. The longer you run, the times fall off, it goes up. You're looking for a flatter line, right? We see Keselowski, just heard of him. He said his car took off good. He was pretty happy with his long run. He pitted right here. Came back out, stayed pretty low. Look at the 12 car in blue. Over. He is below average. That means he is faster. I know that's confusing, Kevin. You already told me. Don't say it. I said it. If you're below that line, you're better than average. That makes sense, kind of. The 5 car is pretty fast. You betting people out there? My money's on the 12. That 8 car, we know he's fast on that long run. Didn't take off very good over here, but pretty flat on the long run. Keep an eye on those long run cars. They're the guys that take care of business at the end.
Well, they got to take care of business right now to put themselves up front. We heard everybody talk about how difficult it is to pass, so qualifying is important. And this bump right here, you're going to have to be wide open going through that patch off the exit of turn 2. You better have that wheel straight. It's that bump. Take the back
not have your car too low either.
You see how it affects those cars. And inside the car, it feels way worse than it looks right there.
Denny Hamlin's is probably the worst. We saw him hit
I got a question for you.
It jumped is what it did.
Let's talk about turn 1. We're sitting at the end of pit road right here.
Thinking about how far I'm going to drive it off into turn 1 without lifting.
What a conversation with yourself. From a driver's perspective, when you're sitting in your car at the end of pit road and you see these guys going by you and you're thinking to yourself, all right, how much throttle do I have to use right here? I couldn't hardly drive my car 30 minutes ago.
I stood over here and watched qualifying. I sat on the pole here once, and I did it by standing right here and watching where everybody lifted getting into turn 1. I said, all right, that's my point. Come hell or high water, I am not lifting until I get to that point, and I didn't, and I scared myself to death. I never got through one. I thought there's no chance that I'm not going to hit the wall. Definitely going to hit it now. It slid right in the slot, went back wide open, never lifted till I got into 3, and I was so far ahead that I completely blew 3 and 4, and I still was on the pole. That's how good that I got into turn 1. Very, very lucky lap.
And so we begin with Austin Hill in a Richard Childress racing car making his first Darlington Cup start.
Woo,
he started top 10 in all 7 of his Xfinity races here. This is the United Rentals Chevrolet.
That number brings back some memories. I drove that car, Kev.
Yeah, and as this qualifying session goes, this racetrack will clean up like we talk about every week, but here more than others. And you will have to make a commitment, and a lot of the speed that you heard Brad talk about it in his interview will be how much you have to lift on the entry to turn 1, and that will carry that speed all the way through to turn 3 when you're wide open off the exit of turn 2.
Mike, that was my Cheerios days.
That's right, Cheerios car.
Yeah, Cheerios. Went from Jack Daniels to Cheerios.
Yeah.
Not together. Never together.
No.
Cheerios days were much easier on his liver.
Way easier.
J.J. Yeley's making his 3rd start of the season. He has 17 Darlington races here with the best finish of 18th. This is the Wawa Chevrolet. If you're in the eastern U.S., that's a big, convenience store, gas station.
Oh, yeah.
Complex. Good food.
I'm still curious how much your blood pressure went down from going from Jack Daniels to Cheerios.
Well, I can tell you which one was more fun. I had a lot of fun with General Mills. It's a great sponsor, but nothing was better than Jack Daniels.
30-31 for J.J. Yaley. Eric Jones. Now, not only is this the John Andretti throwback paint scheme, but in the last stages of John's life, the slogan, "Check it for Andretti," went throughout the garage, really made a big impact. And Advent Health is supporting that Check It for Andretti initiative that we honor John's memory with.
Well, you heard right there into turn one, Eric he went to the gas, had to come out of the gas, and that's that commitment that Clint's talking about going up the hill. He immediately realized he wasn't going to make it and not hit the wall, so he had to check up out of the gas, and that's what you do not want to have happen in this qualifying session. When you go back to the gas, you want to go to it all the way. I would stay off the apron in turn one if it was me. I think it upsets the car.
29-61 for John Andretti, for John Andretti's paint scheme with Eric Jones. Shane Van Gisbergen in the 88 WeatherTech Chevrolet finished 26th last fall at Darlington, his only cup race here. Single round qualifying. One lap.
And you hear Shane having to go on and off of the throttle right there as the car slides.
29.92. The 43 ran a 61.
So he is second. Cole Custer's Haas Automation Ford. Cole has 7 Darlington starts with the best of start of 14th twice. He was an Xfinity race winner here in 2019, carrying that Jimmy Spencer, Chip Ganassi Racing throwback scheme and car number. Quickest 29.48 for Custer. Cody Ware in the Jacob Construction Ford has 5 Darlington starts with the best finish in 19th. Tribute to Tommy Baldwin, Rick Ware Racing Competition Director, who won the Daytona 500 with Ward Burton driving in a car that looked much like this but carried a different number.
Man, you see the back of that car bottom out. We saw him get into the turn 2 exit wall there in qualifying, but that car bottomed out really good right there, Clint.
Or bad, however you want to say. I'm going to say bad.
Yeah, it was.
It's what put him in the wall earlier and about did it again.
Third for Cody Ware, 29.75.
It was a big moment.
Riley Herbst making his first Cup Darlington start. The rookie has 4 top 10s in 10 Xfinity Series races here. This is the Monster Energy Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, or excuse me, for 2311.
It was always so hard, you know, when you come through 3 and 4 on to make your lap is the only indication of the grip level in your car, right? You're out there on race trim, low air pressures, way different in grip level. They pump the pressures up. This thing is grip and rip time right now, max potential. But what I'm getting at, 3 and 4 is so different, drastically different than 1 and 2. You're trying to judge a grip level on your, you know, your
outlap.
Right, to what you're going to commit to getting into turn 1 off of the exit speed off of 4, and that's a hard thing to trust.
Herbst is second fastest so far for 2311. Here is Noah Gregson, who started a Cup Best third at Miami this year. He has 2 Xfinity wins here at Darlington. This is the Beefaroo Ford.
Yeah, and you see him up the hill on the entry to the corner, kind of let that car fall down the hill to try to get a run off of turn 4. All the way on the apron.
So why are the times down from last year? Perhaps because today is the 3rd hottest April 5th on record at Darlington. They've been keeping records since 1902.
It was near record. An old weatherman told me that this morning before I left the house in Winston-Salem. It's hot this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. These drivers, these long runs, it's going to get to them. First one of the year by far.
Gregson is fastest at 29.29.
And honestly, that could be why we saw some of the things that we saw in practice with cars trying to run down the racetrack. Some of these guys trying to use the apron, and a lot of that is just trying to give yourself room in qualifying to slide up the hill in turn 1.
Austin Cindric for Team Penske. This is the Freightliner Ford. 2 front row starts this year. His best Darlington start is 6th in the Southern 500 in 2022.
Austin got through 1 and 2 really well. Carried the speed, was able to, when he got to the gas, it's so important on your exit of 2 to stay with the gas. As soon as you get to it, if you have to crack out of the gas, it ruins the straightaway speed, crushing your lap.
Fastest first driver in the 28s.
1 and 2.
And that's right back to what Brad Keselowski said, and he's exactly right. Getting in and getting the speed right to get up the hill and staying the throttle carried all the way to turn 3. And I also like the line all the way up against the wall through the middle of the corner through 3 and 4.
Well, it goes to the timing aspect of this racetrack that I was talking about earlier. If you don't get into the corner hard enough, it doesn't put you in the right situation up around the corner
right there
where you have to
lift.
Yeah, you have to lift out of the gas and don't carry the momentum and speed.
Josh Berry in the Wood Brothers Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford, honoring Jim Clark. 1965 Indy win. Berry, the Las Vegas winner this year, finished 3rd at Darlington in this race last year. He is 2nd, 29-26.
You get in too hard, you have to hit the brakes to keep from knocking the wall down. If you get in too soft, you pick up the gas too soon, you're going to knock it down on the exit. So frustrating.
10 of 38 drivers have had their turn at the stopwatch. Austin Cindric is fastest.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high quality.
Wallace coming off 2 straight top 3 finishes, and he comes to another track that he's had some great success at. You were on the pole here in the fall, Bubba, so how hard is it to get a car that can qualify well but yet hangs on long enough in the race on Sunday?
Ooh, that's why we get paid the big bucks to figure it out. No, it's good to be here at Darlington. Was happy, you know, it was okay in practice, but it's just a total mental shift here. I'm trying to get some data pulled up from, you know, just practice to what they're doing in qualifying. The pace is really fast compared to the spring last year. So just got to nail it. And by nail it, I mean not the wall. You got to nail your lap, got to nail your marks, and do everything right. And it's so hard to do here. That's what makes this track so fun and challenging.
Love to watch you guys qualify. Good luck.
All right, Justin Haley on track. 3 top 10s at Darlington. He is in the Gainbridge Financial Chevrolet for Spire Motorsports. Has a new pit crew this week. They get their pit crews from Hendrick Motorsports, and there was a swap this week. So he'll have a new group of over-the-wall guys.
Yeah, it's so interesting what Bubba Wallace said right there. You you have to make a decision on where you're going to lift, but a lot of that happens by the pace, and it's so important to get that information. As we see Haley go to second quick right there, so important for the team to get the driver that information so that you can start painting that picture in your mind of where you need to lift, how much throttle you need to use, and the easy things, right? Like being wide open off of turn 2 and being able to leave the throttle down. Seeing those things with multiple cars gives you that confidence to build a simpler picture in your head of and start eliminating things that you need to think about.
Brad Keselowski, last year's winner, 4 top 10s in his last 5 Darlington starts. This is the Castrol 7 critical areas Ford.
And you see that momentum from turn 1. Austin Cindric did such a good job of being able to get in the corner correctly, but get back to the throttle and commit to the throttle, and that carries all the way down to turn 3. Brad got into 3 a little bit harder, but it didn't pay dividends for him on the exit compared to Cindric's car.
Well, he's second fastest so far. John Hunter Nemechek next up for Legacy Motor Club, the Dollar Tree Toyota. 5 Darlington starts, best finish of 9th in this race in 2020, honoring his dad's 1998 paint scheme when Joe raced for Felix Sabates. Had a spin in practice that caused a red flag after 18 laps, broke the session up pretty much in half.
Went from that spin to having to go out there and lay the fastest lap of your weekend in qualifying.
29:31. AJ Allmendinger next up, the Action Industries Chevrolet. Finished top 10 in 2 of the last 3 races. He has a Darlington best 13th in the fall of 2023, his last Cup start here. Here's the Colleague Racing Chevrolet.
And you can hear the throttle, you can hear the sound of the throttle. Had to just play with the throttle a little bit up the hill there in turn 1, and just loses that little bit of distance all the way through the corner.
The Dinger comes across 4th quickest, 29:23.
It's a really good lap by Austin Cindric.
Carson Hocevar was fastest in practice. He started outside the front row here last year. Crashed out, finished 33rd. The Ziegler Auto Group Chevrolet for Spire Motorsports.
Ooh, he was definitely a lane up the racetrack right there. Man, he carried a lot of speed.
Stayed with it, though. Got up to the wall soon, just like you were saying in race trim. See if he can bring it down up off the wall. Stay with the gas. Austin Cindric's coming back. No can do.
Second by 5/100ths of a second.
Close.
Good job there, buddy.
Daniel Suarez has 14 Darlington starts, a best of 5th here in 2019. 1 top 10 finish. The Quaker State Chevrolet for Team Trackhouse.
Oh, you fired it in there, Clint. Into the wall.
Commitment.
Well, it's a commitment, but there's just, when you get to turn 3, you have to go off of your markers. You're not going to drive it in there. We've seen so many guys go up the hill right there and hit the fence, and when you go past your markers that you have, you just cannot stop the car headed towards the wall when you've got just a little bit too much speed.
Easier said than done, though. You carry so much more momentum and speed off of 2 unconsciously than you ever did all day long in this qualifying trim scenario.
Suarez is 9th.
Off guard.
This is Austin Dillon for Richard Childress Racing. Has a best start of 9th here so far. This is the Brestree Chevrolet.
The speed is all made through turns 1 and 2, and turn 3 is just don't mess it up.
That's exactly what I said about my qualifying lap. The one time I did sit on the pole. Just don't mess it up in 3 and 4.
6 for Dylan. Here's Alex Bowman for Hendrick Motorsports, honoring Jimmy Johnson with this Southern 500 winning scheme on his Ally Chevrolet. Pole winner at Miami.
Man, he got to the green really good. He had a half a car length on Austin Cindric, but just couldn't hold on through the middle of turns 1 and 2. Sometimes what happens in the middle of turns 1 and 2 is if you try to hang that thing out just a touch too long to come back down the hill off the exit of 2, you have to lift because the front end gets tight and won't turn down the hill. Or you hit the wall and have to lift because it won't come down the hill. I didn't see that part.
Yeah. 13th for Bowman. Last car in Group 1 to qualify will be the Hayek Motorsports Chevrolet for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who finished better than he started in every race this year so far. This is the Sonny D Chevrolet.
Yeah, and that was quite a commitment there into turn 1. He had to get back out of the gas as he got to the wall, was able to kind of maintain on the exit of 2, shoots it into turn 3 right there. Whew, got loose off of turn 4.
I didn't have to see it, I heard it.
Yeah.
Stenhouse will be 10th so far. So after Group 1, Austin Cindric's Ford, Carson Hocevar's Chevrolet pace the field.
Race trim, it's not that much commitment because you're just kind of under the limit of the tires, but when you try to maximize the tires here, you know, pushing entry at 1, holding it flat off at 2, entering 3, you know, inches from the wall with a lot of speed is challenging. So yeah, it gets intense behind the wheel, but one of the more fun tracks we get to qualify at. So I look forward to it. Hopefully our HinderCars.com Chevy can qualify good here. We got late, so hopefully the track will get a little bit better and we can start well for tomorrow.
Mike, you guys were talking about temperature. I don't need you to tell me it's the 3rd hottest April 5th. My little bald head already says that.
Thanks, Larry.
And I think that's a big reason why we're seeing these cars, you know, overshoot and probably over guesstimate their grip level in their cars hitting these walls. This track's hot and it's slick.
And you know how this racetrack it gets. When the hotter it gets, the harder it gets to drive. And And
which takes me back to what Kyle Larson just said.
Yeah.
Probably one of the only drivers in the field that actually thinks his qualifying session's fun. I couldn't believe he said that.
Chris Buescher for RFK Racing, the Fifth Third Bank Ford, clocks in third. Just under 29 seconds.
Everybody else is on pins and needles. My man is out there telling him, man, this is one I look forward to. This is fun.
That's what makes him great,
I guess.
Here's the other Monster Energy Toyota. This is the Joe Gibbs racing car for Ty Gibbs. Runner-up in this race last year, his best ever Cup finish.
Had pretty good speed in practice, Kev.
He did, and right now he's got good speed through the exit of turn 2. Now you just go down here and don't drive it in too far.
Don't give it away.
See it get a little bit loose on the entry right there. Right on top of the Austin Cindric car.
Nope. 3/100ths of a second slower for Ty Gibbs.
It's a good effort,
second.
though. I'm glad that he was disciplined getting into 3. You saw him, you know, you saw that discipline on display, excuse me. Backed up the corner a little bit, gave up a little bit, but he stayed right there where he needed to be time-wise.
Zane Smith in the Long John Silver's Ford has 2 top 10 starts this season. This will be his 3rd Cup race at Darlington.
He had a big moment off of 2 in practice. Got through there a lot better that time. Had to have been fresh on his mind, though, going through there last time by, about wrecked the car.
Well, you saw him check up a little bit early. He was ahead of Austin Cindric through the turns 1 and 2, and he actually just slowed his car down a little more than Austin for whatever reason and lost it off of turn 4. Great lap, though.
Yeah, it is. He's going to like this track position.
5th fastest. Ty Dillon for Colleague Racing. 5 top 20s at Darlington in 10 starts with a best of 12th. This is the Beaver Street Fisheries Chevrolet.
Say that 3 times fast, Mike. Starting to see a lot of those cars start to have that little moment right there, the little wiggle into turn 3.
'14th for Dillon. Kyle Busch for Richard Childress Racing, the winner here in 2008. 3 runner-up finishes here since the Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen Chevrolet for Richard Childress.
We thought this car was really good in race trim when you look at the graphs and the long runs, and
he did too. He liked it. Yeah.
Back to the throttle, drive that car up to the wall, lift again. It's going to be a really good lap for Kyle Busch.
He got to the throttle very quick. You said it. You know, more than cracked out of that thing, was right back to it.
1/100th of a second off.
So close.
Austin Cindric. Right. William Byron in a Jeff Gordon throwback Exalta Chevrolet scheme for Hendrick Motorsports. Won this race 2 years ago.
Big corner in turn 1 for Williams. See him up on the racetrack, didn't touch the apron, able to carry a ton of speed and get the car rotated up near the fence.
Playing on house money, don't give it all away and getting in 3. Did not do that. This is a big lap.
Massive lap for William Byron.
Might be the Flames, 28.77.
Well, if you're going to have flames on your car, Mike, you better be fast.
You're going to be driving that car, you better be
I'm going to
fast.
give you a decent qualifying lap. Good job.
Good job to you.
All right, Todd Gilliland with that offset stripe on the Ray Fox tribute. Rudabush Ford for Front Row Motorsports, coming off his 2nd top 10 finish of the season.
Man, they all might look like that from William Byron from here on out. He got it all in both ends of the corner, or both ends of this racetrack, Kevin. He got into 1, back to the gas, the momentum off the 2. It was awesome in 3 and 4. That's going to be a tough lap.
Good run for Gilliland, 5th quickest so far.
I mean, that's the point. You're watching that ghost car right there, Mike, and, you know, I heard you say 5th quickest, but boy, it looked like he was a mile away from Byron.
And that's the advantage of being late in this run. You get to see where that speed is made up, especially if you're William Byron's teammates.
Here's the Las Vegas pole winner, Michael McDowell. His best Darlington start so far is 9th in the Delaware Life Chevrolet for Spire Motorsports. Regardless of who wins it, it's going to be the fastest pole for the 7th generation NASCAR Cup car at Darlington.
Which is hard to believe as hot as it is.
Just barely touched the wall right there off of turn 2. Didn't really lose much time though.
4th for McDowell.
It's picking up. Business is definitely picking up.
Tyler Reddick for Team 2311 in the McDonald's Toyota has started in the top 10 the last 8 Darlington races, including the pole here last year when he led 174 laps.
Yeah, Bubba's been on. These guys have been on a roll. Tyler, his teammate, has been on a roll. Tyler has had a few bumps in the road as he's gone, and I think a lot of that are the expectations that we expect out of this 45 team, but we know that he can get it done when it comes to these places where you got to rip it around the fence, Clint.
Yeah, and I think that's going to help him prevail on the longer runs.
3rd for Reddick.
Again, it takes me back to that ghost car. You see William Byron kind of drive away from those guys, and you give up, right? You think that lap's no good, but that was 3rd quick. Go ahead and say it, Kevin.
Yeah, well, 2nd quick to 9th quick is in the 90s, so it's a half a tenth. And then it's William Byron up at the top.
Ryan Blaney for Team Penske. The Menards Dutch Boy Ford's paint scheme honoring Ryan's dad, Dave's Xfinity Series win at Charlotte in 2006.
That car didn't look like it changed directions quite as good for him. He looked a little bit tighter, more bound up in 1 and 2, Kevin, coming back down the hill. Same thing there. Had to backed out of the gas a little bit getting into 3, gave up speed to Byron. I still think it's going to be a decent lap.
It is. 5th. He is the 2nd fastest Ford so far, behind teammate Austin Cindric in 2nd.
I mean, look, we're talking grip level, slip and sliding around, 2 drastically different ends of this racetrack, a 94 to a 95, 2nd clear through 5th.
29 drivers have had their turn at qualifying. There's Austin Cindric, who's now 2nd to William Byron.
I always want more. There is no limitations.
different reasons, Denny, for different people and for you. But what stood out the most about that win? What's the most special?
Just, you know, getting back to victory lane at that track. Obviously, it's so historic, and we had it locked down there for so many years, and then you kind of forget, you know, how long it had been since we had won there. So really a great accomplishment for this whole team, and obviously the crew chief and Chris Gale. So you just got to continue that momentum. We got some great racetracks ahead of us, and you know, hopefully we can continue to stack up these playoff points.
All right, Denny Hamlin, he'll wait to roll out last here, Mike.
By the way, the flag that he held up after victory lane there was given to him by a fan just before the race. So he was honoring that gift with that 11 against the world flag that created quite a bit of commotion on social media during the week.
Well, I agree with you. He had the whole world rooting for him when he held that flag up. Right back where we came from.
All right, here's the Joe Gibbs Racing Bass Pro Toyota for Chase Briscoe, who won here last fall after starting third.
Close as I've seen anybody to Byron through 1 and 2.
Man.
Didn't quite get it turned back down the hill in 2. Still within a car length, though.
We aren't having to zoom out on SMT yet. So that's closer than most have been.
I'd say as you wind
it's a good
down,
exit
you're not
right
going to
there.
have that. It's a good lap.
Second for Briscoe by 1/10 of a second.
He'll be happy with that.
Yeah, and he should be. I mean, that thing was a handful as he got off the apron going up the hill and won, and that exit. I wish I could explain to you how big of a moment that feels like in the car.
Ryan Preece, top 10 in the last 3 races, his longest streak in Cup. Roush, Fenway, Keselowski, Kroger, Country, Croc, Ford.
I'm glad you said that, Kevin. You're past the point of no return. In other words, you're full committed. And if it slips, you're in the fence. It's simple as that. That's the level of commitment that you have to get to in this qualifying session. You have to put it out there, put it on the line. If you jump it over the cushion and hit the wall, so be it. But you have to go for it to run this lap.
That's a good one for Preece. He is second.
Well, we talked about the racetrack and the temperature and everything going up, Clint, but as we get towards the end of this qualifying session, there are a lot of cars that are putting up big laps.
Ross Chastain, his best start 5th at Darlington. That came here 2 years ago. He's in the Busch Light Fishing Chevrolet after attending the Bassmasters Classic Pro-Am in March in Texas for Trackhouse Racing.
Yeah, we saw a wiggle out of that car right there in turn 1, and it does not take much for you to start losing ground when you have those moments all the way to turn 3.
Usually when it wiggles into 1, it doesn't get any better down there. Same thing getting into 3 and 4 loose in. Good racetrack for Ross, though. Always runs well here. He'll be a factor.
Going to come from deep in the field, though. He's 19th right now. Joey Logano in the Shell Pennzoil Ford for Team Penske got his first top 10 finish of the season last week. The latest in the season a defending champion has gotten a top 10, but finally monkey off his back. Here we go.
You can see just couldn't trust it, right? It didn't have the grip to stay on the gas and carry the momentum. Had to slow it down as he approached the wall in 1 and 2, Kev.
Yeah, we see him a little bit lower, right in the middle lane. Most of the fast guys have been all the way up next to the wall in the middle of the corner, but he chose the middle lane and didn't work too bad for him.
14th at 29.03.
Yeah, just lost so much time through turns 1 and 2, never really made it up.
Bubba Wallace, 4 top 10s in his last 5 Darlington starts. Here's the Columbia Sportswear Toyota for 2311 Racing.
Yeah, and these guys have been on a roll. We talked about it while Tyler Reddick was going, but Bubba Wallace and this 23 team, you see him right up next to the fence, used everything up right there.
It's a great year for Bubba Wallace. Need to continue that momentum. Woo-hoo! Got it all off of 4. That's as close as you get there.
4th for Wallace. He's the 2nd fastest Toyota to Chase Briscoe.
I want to go back to that. Went into that corner 10th. He came out 4th. That was a good 3 and 4. Picked up speed, found speed in 3 and 4 where most haven't.
4 cars to go. Here's Kyle Larson for Hendrick Motorsports on the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. this year's Miami race winner. He's started top 10 in 6 of the last 7 Darlington races.
I think this is the bullet that William Byron has to dodge, and I think he did.
Yeah, he dodged this bullet. Kyle had to lift going up the hill. He was full commitment and just had too much speed and had to lift right before the fence.
That full commitment, I said it, that's what it's going to take to beat William Byron. It was a perfect lap by that 24, and if anybody's going to take him down, they're just going to have to go for it, and if it doesn't work out, so be it.
Larson is 16th. So Preece is going to be the fastest Ford because the 3 cars left include 1 Chevy and 2 Toyotas. Here's Chase Elliott, the UniFirst Chevrolet, honoring Ken Schrader for Hendrick Motorsports. Chase started second at Martinsville last week, his best start of the year. He was an Xfinity winner here in 2014. So William Byron is going to be the first Chevrolet in this field with 2 Toyotas to go. Elliott 14th.
Mike, you said it. We got those manufacturers out of the way, but there's 2 Toyotas right here to cap off the field. And I look over at this scoring monitor here, and Briscoe, Wallace, there's 2 Toyotas in the top 4. Can Toyota take William Byron off of this pole?
Well, here's Christopher Bell. He's been the top Toyota of the season. Toyota has won the last 4 poles here.
Well, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it right here through 1 and 2.
The DeWalt Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, honoring Bell's mentor, Rick Ferkel.
Got too tight. Watch how important down there the crumbs are, though. Pretty much stayed right there on speed-wise, but just like when we watched Bubba Wallace, went in 10th, come out 4th in 3 and 4. When the lap times are this tight over here, any little slip up, it's the crumbs that make the difference. 1 more left, Mike.
Well, 16th for Christopher Bell. It's all down to William Byron against Denny Hamlin in the Sport Clips Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Got his 55th career win last week, tying Rusty Wallace on the all-time list.
See, Denny was a little bit lower. His speed all came just from how much he slowed the car down and back to the throttle right there early in turn 1, and he's kept that gap all the way off of turn 2, being able to stay low, losing a little more ground on the entry, but making up for it on the exit, Clint.
Third for Hamlin, and the Toyota pole streak at Darlington is broken by William Byron. The 27-year-old from Charlotte is with Larry Mack.
William, fastest qualifying lap in a Gen 7 car, and it all started the advantage you had in turn 1, and you never gave it up.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. It was, just a good week of prep by our guys. Just really proud of their effort. Got a great-looking throwback scheme back to Jeff Gordon's 2015 car. So just thanks to Axalta Chevrolet. Yeah, the lap was, I felt like 1 and 2 was really good. I felt like I gave up a little bit in 4, and you could kind of see that on the tracker. So was just good enough to get through there, and then through the middle of 3 and 4 was also pretty decent. So just proud of that. To get a pole here is great. I don't think we've ever had the pole at Darlington, so we usually run really well here. So we just got to put it together tomorrow.
William, you touched on it. You're used to climbing in the window of this 24 car, but not only is it a paint scheme that Jeff Gordon ran, the final time he drove the 24 car, Homestead Miami Speedway in 2015. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty special. I mean, honestly, that's a pretty recent memory for me. I remember that race and just sort of what that meant. So I just think it's really cool to have a lot of Jeff's paint schemes over the years. I've had some really cool throwbacks, so I've been fortunate to have that and have partners like Axalta to be able to really make it exact. It honestly looks really similar.
Jamie, I bet you're with a driver that's pretty happy about his qualifying run.
Yes, he is. Ryan Preece, best qualifying effort of the season by a lot, Ryan. And this is an important place. Every driver has said how important qualifying is. How does starting up front on the front row help your chances tomorrow?
Well, I think confidence-wise, it feels great, right? I mean, I've qualified like crap for years, and it feels really good. So just super appreciative of the opportunity, with everybody at RFK and Kroger and, this country crock Ford Mustang's just sporty. We felt really good in practice, and it's been nice just work on me, and things that I can continue to do better, and I think it's showing. So really appreciative to have, Chris and Brad as teammates, because they really helped push me, as well as kind of give me that roadmap how to continue to excel. So it's good to have some track position to start, and we're going to try and keep it and have a good day tomorrow.
Well, you touched on it, Ryan. This is a brand new race team for you, yet you guys are just getting so consistent. 3 straight top 10 finishes. Today I saw you over there in the garage. You were the first one with your fire suit on an hour before you even had to come out here. Are you a believer in this momentum thing?
I guess I am, but I'm a believer of if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. So that's why I'm always early to everything. But yeah, it's certainly, in order to win races, we all talk about winning races, and we've all done it at this level. But to get there, you need to be consistent. And we've been showing the consistency even when we don't start where we need to, we get to where we want to be. So that shows me that even at times when you're struggling, if you got that fight in you, you'll get there.
Good to see it. Ryan Preece will start on the front row tomorrow. What do you think, Clint? Are you ever 5 minutes early?
No, but I was out on a hot day like this, hot weekend, first one of the year. I was always in a fire suit, and I was outside getting acclimated to it. Learned that early days of motocross.
I would say he's been listening to Kevin Harvick and paying attention.
Well, you have to be consistent, and you have to put yourself in position to win, but he has done a great job, he and that 60 team.
Yeah, both that front row. Unbelievable lap by William Byron. Knew as soon as we saw that it was going to be a good lap.
William Byron was 0.2 faster than the next Chevrolet. Preece was 1/10 faster than the next fastest Ford. Wow.
It's a game of inches, but when you're talking about the small increments that we talk about every week, as you see Kyle Larson back there in 19th and Brad Keselowski in 20th, those guys have some work to do.
This is a good track for Brad. I'm glad you said that, Kevin. Needing a big turnaround out of that 6 car. Could be the weekend. Chastain, good track for him. Going to be starting back in row 13. Josh Berry's had a great start to the season. Keep an eye on him. And Bowman had his moment, slipped up and got into the wall. Quit back in row 17. Coming to the front, the showman.
Going to be fun tomorrow for the Goodyear 400, NASCAR's official Throwback weekend. That all happens tomorrow with pre-race starting at 2 p.m. Eastern on FS1, followed by the Goodyear 400 at 3.